We're joined by SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena. Good afternoon, Sophie. So the ANC has reacted post the announcement by the Constitutional Council. Just take us through that statement.
Well, clearly the ANC, as a sister party to Frelimo, has congratulated Frelimo. You know that the political parties in the southern region that are part of the liberation organizations, they have done that before, immediately after the announcement by the Electoral Commission. Again, now we see that happening, and therefore I think the issue here will be to watch what government is going to do. We saw earlier on the Department of International Relations issuing a statement calling for dialogue. And I think government wants to perhaps take a tone where it's encouraging dialogue among all political parties to avoid the current challenges that we see in Mozambique. And therefore, while the ANC as a political party, a friend to Frelimo, has congratulated Daniel Chapo, on the other hand, you see diplomatic processes in relation to government, a more measured approach and reaction to what's happening in Mozambique, because the distraction is quite massive. When you look at the videos and the visuals in Mozambique, you can see that people took to the streets after that announcement, particularly the capital city, Maputo, and also Berea City, one of the second largest cities in Mozambique, where we saw a lot of distraction, and also houses of politicians, Frelimo members and ministers were targeted. Some institutions were also targeted. And therefore, I think South Africa is fully aware that this situation in Mozambique calls for sober minds, and perhaps a better way is a dialogue. Now, the question is, who will lead that dialogue? South Africa, through its foreign affairs, has indicated that it's willing to assist in terms of facilitating the dialogue.
Because, I mean, there was an attempt, at least by President Philippe Nyusi a bit earlier on, before he went to the summit, to at least invite all of the candidates, the presidential candidates before, those that were presidential candidates before they went to the polls. But it seemed that Venantia Mondlane was one individual who was not prepared to meet for that conversation. So I suppose the big question is, who would lead that dialogue or facilitate some sort of a conversation?
Well, clearly President Nyusi wouldn't have been seen as a person who can lead those dialogues. Because you look at the situation in Mozambique, he is the current president and he is the leader of Frelimo party. And therefore, you can't have a situation where people who are aggrieved against Frelimo and Frelimo's leader or a person who is the outgoing president facilitating or mediating that standoff. And therefore, I think a neutral person is needed if both parties do agree to facilitate the dialogue. We saw earlier on Daniel Chapo saying that he's willing to engage with other stakeholders in terms of the reforms in that country, the constitutional reforms and also the electoral reforms. And therefore, you need a neutral person to do that. And that is why South Africa is saying, if all parties are willing, South Africa is available to assist. Because remember, people are saying South Africa must do something. South Africa can't do anything at this moment unless South Africa is invited by stakeholders or assigned by the SADC or the AU to facilitate the talks. Because as we speak, South Africa is not the chair of the organ on Troika, politics and defense, including security in the region. It is neither the chair of the Assembly of SADC. Zimbabwe is the chair of SADC. Tanzania is the chair of the organ or the Troika. that deals with politics
and
and
Emmerson
security
Mnangagwa was in fact,
the region.
Pardon me for interjecting there. And Emmerson Mnangagwa was in fact the first to congratulate Frelimo just after the October 9 elections. So many had even felt going into that troika, into the summit, that it was a bit difficult for many to believe that he himself would be neutral in that respect, having been the very first one to have at least congratulated Frelimo. But what does all of this mean now, Sophie? Because as we speak, Mozambique is burning. What does it mean for Mozambique's economy? Because I was just reading reports that their GDP has been actually revised downwards, that possibly they will see very little to no growth.
This will have a huge impact in terms of the economy. I spoke to one of the leaders within the party of Mondlane 4 weeks ago. He pointed out that they have made arrangements that when they embark on protests, they do it in the afternoon so that people can go to work. But in the afternoon, they can proceed and continue with these protests. That is why when you look at the protests, they get hectic at night or late in the afternoon. The intention is to try and save the economy, but it will have, they will have impact. You know that during this time, many people visit Mozambique, and we see now even the Airlink, the flights are not operating as they used to in the few weeks, and perhaps at this time where you have more people visiting those islands in Mozambique and Mozambique in general. And therefore it's going to affect tourism and other sectors. The supply chain is going to be affected. As you heard earlier on, that there are problems in terms of trucks going to Mozambique. And some of these trucks are actually going up to DRC, Kenya. You know, it's the whole supply chain is going to be affected in the region, particularly when you go to countries such as Tanzania, when you go to countries such as the DRC, including Uganda and Kenya, because some of these goods end up in those countries, and also some of the goods coming up, going down to the main ports in South Africa will not reach their destination on time, and therefore it is going to affect business, and that is why South Africa is worried. The reality is Mozambicans will have to sit on the negotiating table and find a solution, and a lasting solution to this problem. We are told that some of individuals from Mozambique even met the former South African President Thabo Mbeki, speaking to him, and perhaps looking at him as a senior person in the region who will have information and perhaps better knowledge in terms of Mozambique and how the country has evolved, because people don't want to see another civil war in Mozambique. And therefore you can see Mozambicans, the academics and many other people are trying behind the scenes to try and find a solution. And that is why South Africa is saying, if we are requested to assist, we are willing to assist. But there must be a request, and all parties must buy in this proposal, not only one or two parties. Because to find a lasting solution, all parties must see a mediator or a facilitator as someone with credibility and someone they can respect and trust.
Sophie, thank you very much for that. That was SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena just giving us the latest there after the ANC also issued a statement responding, or at least congratulating Daniel Shapo of Frelimo after he was confirmed as the victor of those October elections.